Well, Bobby, welcome back to East End Park. It's nice to see you. When you signed for Dunfermline, you signed in from Pennycook Athletic, and it was actually Harry Melrose that signed you, even though you weren't called up until 1981. So how did the transition come about from, how did you feel coming from the junior ranks into professional football?
It's something I always wanted to do, and I remember getting the trial for Dunfermline, and I went along and I played and I scored 2 goals and I got signed that night. But because it was funny, because Dunfermline were not funny, but they were in relegation trouble, and Pennycook, we were challenging for the league, so I'm going, I didn't want to leave here. So it was decided I'll sign and I'll play to the end of the season. And in that time, it was Harry Melrose was the manager, and in that time Harry left and Pat Stanton came in. I'm going, no. But no, things came along, things were fine. Obviously it was quite daunting my first season. I don't know how I was going to do, but as long as you're totally confident in your ability, then it was going to be fine.
You played under 3 managers really.
Yeah.
Pat, Tom Forsyth and Jim Leishman. So I take it they were all 3 totally different.
Yeah. No disrespect to Pat Stanton, but I think Pat, because he was such a Hibs legend, I don't think the passion for the club was there. Tom Forsyth came along and it was just his first shot at management, and he wanted everybody to play like he played. Do you know what I mean? Just go out and kick lumps out of people. And it wasn't until Jim came along that all of a sudden, this is what Dunfermline is all about, and that's pretty much where it was onward and upwards for there. That was my opinion.
A lot of players at that time were signed from the junior ranks to teams, whereas now they could probably go the other way.
Well, I think a lot of the teams have got development now. They didn't have that in my day. It was kind of like, they were taking, they had the schoolboy forms, or you were taken from a boys' club like Salveson or Hutchie Vale in Edinburgh or whatever. They didn't have a development. They did then. And it wasn't very often that junior players actually got a shot at it, and I thought I wasn't going to get a shot, but it's like everywhere else. If you're good enough, then you will get a shot, and I was just lucky that I did.
Was it always your ambition to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I started playing at 9, 10, and you watch the TV, you just that's what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? And kind of, maybe I shouldn't say this, but when I left school, I only wanted to be a footballer. Didn't make any plans to be a joiner or any kind of trade, as I wanted to be a footballer, which was not a great attitude to have, but it took me a while to do it, but I did it, so I did get professional, albeit just part-time.
Yeah, I was going to say it was part-time.
It was always part-time, but I've had a job since I was 16, so a full-time job, so it was just part-time.
Yeah. You signed as a striker, or you were signed as a striker? But then you reverted to left back.
It was Jim Leishman. I was more a left winger, and that was I was kind of stereotyped like that. And I'm just like any player, I want to score goals. However, when you come to a team like Dunfermline or any professional team, you just want to play. And if they'd handed me a goalie jersey, I would have played. But one of the strengths I've got is I'm really fast. So I think Jim seen that. He says it doesn't matter, nobody's going to run past you, and you could pass it back to the goalie then, and he could pick it up and things like that. So as long as I got a jersey, seriously, it didn't bother me. However, I think any player will say that they want to go up and score goals. So this was the only club that I ever played at left back, and for 4 years I was first pick in the team sheet, but I went to other clubs and I wasn't, so that tells you something.
Did you enjoy playing left back?
I did, and I did, because it was, as I said, it was a lot easier to play left back then, because you could pass it back to the keeper, you could pick it up, you could, it's more, there's more pressure on left backs now. And I did score the odd goal, and that was, heaven. Anybody tell you scoring goals is the best thing ever. Yeah, I did play left back, and one of my proudest things as well is that Dunfermline, when it was Bobby Robertson and I, whenever we had cover for left back, but we never had cover for right back. So whenever Bobby was injured, I would go to right back, and they would bring in a left back. because I was equally as good by either foot. In fact, to this day, nobody knows, were you left foot or right foot? And it was, I'm quite proud of that, in fact.
There's not many players that are...
Well, no, it doesn't bother me. It's always been one of my strengths, is I'm fast and I can kick with either foot. Other than that, I'm hopeless. But,
is there any game that you played in that was, or games that were memorable for you?
The big one was my debut against Aberdeen. The game out there against Queen and South when we got promotion, it was just fantastic. I'll never forget staying on Smuir as well. It was probably the worst game in the history of the world. Who cares, you know what I mean? These games are all a bit, I think playing at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup was just like, I wish I could go back and savour it again, because it was just so, it was actually surreal. You know, we were actually beating Rangers with 10 minutes to go, and I'm looking at Norrie, Norrie's looking at me going, we're going to win. Things like that, I'll never forget things like that. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Did you have, on that game, did you have belief in your ability that you could hang on for the result, you know, at the end?
We did, because I'm sure if you look at the stats, Rangers must have had about 90% of possession and must have missed about 20 chances, but they just didn't look as though they were going to score. And we actually thought we were going to hold out. We really did. And at that time, it would have been the biggest shock of all time. But it was quite. I'll never forget that game as long as I live.
Was it quite deflating at the end because you ended up?
No. I mean, of course it was, because I think we expected to get beaten, and even a draw would have been a great result. But I just remember being a bit disappointed. Imagine being. But a wee story before that is that that was only my second game at left back, and there was a guy called Davy Cooper that used to play with Rangers, and I was going to be up against him. I'm like, no, my God, it's going to destroy me. Well, Davy Cooper got injured during the week, and I'm like, so that you'd be surprised how more relaxed I was because I wasn't up against Davy Cooper. So that was Billy Mackay that I played against, who I'd played against before, and I knew he wasn't as fast as me, so I was quite happy.
When you're talking about the defence at that time, there was Bobby, there was you, there was Norrie, and Dave Dunn. Yeah. How did you all gel together? And is there any of those, the players that you played with stand out?
Well, I think that was the best back four I've ever played, and we had everything: speed, experience, height, determination. It was just like four guys who, if you want to. Plus, we had Ian Westwater behind us, which wasn't, you know what I mean. If anything did get past us, you got Westy mopping it up. And I think when you've got that thing, the forwards think we're not going to lose many goals with that team, and it was just, I don't know, it was just. And I've never been near that game with any team. Normally there's no a back four that you could rhyme off like that. You probably get one or two who are consistent. At Meadowbank we had Graham Armstrong, but all the rest was kind of fitted in round about him and things like that. But no, it was just, I think it was a one-off for me, definitely.
Yeah. While you were here, it was a bit of a roller coaster time.
Yeah.
Say you were relegated, promoted, relegated. How did it feel playing in all the different leagues? To
be honest, it wasn't a roller coaster for me because it was upwards all the time. It was we got relegated once, and then when Jim came, it was up all the time. I didn't play in I left before the relegated before, so I was only relegated once, and it was just upwards all the time after that. And I think the lowest point was at Muirton. That was quite low, but I was still proud to be playing professional football. So I mean, it was just. That's how I looked at it, thinking this must be what it's like. Because when to play, maybe to win a league, I would have had to have stepped down a level. Would it have been as good as being in the professional? That's how I looked at it. And then things just went onwards and upwards after that. It was just great.
Did you think when Jim took over that it would have been as good? Did you envisage that at any time?
I don't think it would have been as good. I think, and Karen will tell you to this day, that no matter what job I've been at or what team I've been at, Jim Leishman is the best man manager I've ever had. He knows, even today, he just knows how to speak to people, how to treat people. If you need to backside kick, he'll kick it. If you need a cuddle, he'll cuddle you. It just makes you feel better than what you are, and that's a gift. Other managers, no, not so much. So yes, no. The answer is no. It wouldn't have been the same without, in my opinion.
Yeah. You scored on your debut against Aberdeen. You were talking about that earlier.
It was. I was wanting to tell the story in there, but I don't know if I'll get the chance. But when I made my debut, I didn't drive at the time, so I got the train. I got the bus into Edinburgh, and I got the train across. So you can imagine, I did that to get here. Scored against a back five, which consisted of Jim Layton, Stuart Kennedy, Doug Rugby, Willie Miller, and Alec McLeish, and I scored after 10 minutes. So I'm like, wow. Gets back to Edinburgh bus station, buys the pink news. Remember the pink? My photo's on the front, scoring. These guys are on the picture, and I'm going, oh my god. And I'm like, I've nobody to share it with. I'm like, so I get on the bus and I'm trying to read it. And it was just fantastic. Of course, I must have bought every Sunday paper it was going, and the photo was on it, and I've never been so proud and as exhilarated by that. And I've still got that picture to this day with Miller, McLeish, Rugby, Kennedy, and Layton all in the picture. Couldn't have got a better start, to be honest.
It's prominent in the scrapbook, right?
Yeah, it is pretty much.
When you we were promoted to the Premier League, and you played a few games at the Premier League, and then you left and went to Meadowbank.
No, I went to Arbroath. Yeah. Well, it was quite simple. I played my last game was against Celtic out there, and we won 2-1. But I did my cruciate ligament, and I was out for months. And by the time I came back, they'd signed Bobby Smith, Hope for Dundee United, who were far better and more experienced players than I'll ever be. So I was never going to get back into left back. I'd spoke to Jim and I can't remember who the assistant was at the time, and say, well look, is there any chance I can get him back in the team somewhere else? But that wasn't going to happen. So kind of to get a game, I needed to move on. So I wasn't bitter or anything. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I probably wasn't good enough for the SPL. So be it. It was just the time to move. But my last game for Dunfermline was beating Celtic 2-1, which is not a bad memory.
No.
And I played a whole half with a cruciate ligament, which was absolutely destroyed. But I played 45 minutes with it. The adrenaline must have been absolutely. Couldn't walk for 3 weeks after.
And then you nearly became a villain against
Yes.
When you were in Meadowbank.
Yes.
That was 2 seasons later?
Yeah. It was Dunfermline had to win or had the better Falkirk result, was it something like that? And of course I'm playing with Meadowbank, I want to do well. So it was bittersweet, wasn't it? I mean, I still wanted to win, but as it turned out, everybody was happy with the draw, and I didn't have a particularly good game, but I was delighted that Dunfermline got up. But I missed out my win bonus. So it's really
How do you look back on your time at Dunfermline?
I think, and I don't mean to be patronising just because it's in front of the camera or whatever, but it was the best time in my life. It was the one time where I peaked. Playing at Tynecastle and Easter Road and Kilmarnock and all these places week in, week out is just something that footballers dream about, and I did that. And quite successful as well. Obviously not as successful as I would have liked to be. So yeah, it was, and to be invited back year after year after year and still be remembered is just quite awesome. I mean, there's no other words for it. It's just a great set of supporters. It's a great club. It's as simple as that. And I'm proud to have played it.
I think most people who were around in the 80s, fans who saw you, they can, relate to you in the fact that you were this marauding winger, stroke fullback, going up the left side.
I've always said that I'm just a supporter playing, for a team that all the fans would have loved to have been where I was. I was never, and I've always had a great relationship with the fans. There's one thing you should never do is, you know, if you get beat, don't even hide away. You know, they respect you more if you come and speak, and I've always done that. I've never hid away, and I can, you know, I know a lot of players who would do that. I've just never done that, and I like to think I've had a great relationship with all the teams I've played with just because of that. You know, it's just like, you know, you would love to be where I am, and I appreciate that. So thanks for giving me the chance, and they're a great set of support.
Do you get to many of the games? I know you say you've been invited back a few times, and are you a member of the former players?
I am, yes, I am. I don't get to as many as, but I don't go to any game. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. I like watching football on the TV. I like live games. I don't. Even my local junior club, Pennycoot Athletic, I've seen them 3 times in 4 years or something. So I don't get to a lot of games. No, I don't. And it's no just because it's just.
Do you still look out for the result?
Of course I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and when they're doing well, it's you know, I'm happy. So it's, yeah, I do.
Well, it was lovely to see you, Bobby, and thanks for speaking to us.
No problem. Thank you very much.